We will now look at law and legislation. There are many laws and legislation across the United Kingdom that control the safeguarding of vulnerable adults. They all govern responsibilities and duties on the relevant adult social care services within local authorities, as they are the lead agencies for protecting vulnerable adults. The relevant acts give decisive responsibilities to government, public and healthcare sectors to ensure that all those people that are in vulnerable situations are protected from harm. In the UK, the following pieces of legislation came into force. England, the Care Act 2014, officially April 2015. Northern Ireland, Safeguarding Vulnerable Groups Order 2007. Scotland, Adult Support and Protection Act 2007. Wales, Social Services and Wellbeing Act 2014, officially 6th of April 2016. You will observe that although each piece of legislation is worded slightly differently, they cover the same issues and have the same fundamental principles. We will look at the following acts more closely. The Care Act 2014. The aim of this act is to set out a clear legal framework for how local authorities and other parts of the system should protect adults at risk of abuse or neglect. The Care Act 2014 explains the responsibilities for the safeguarding and protection of vulnerable adults at risk of abuse and neglect. The Act was produced to bring a variety of legislation together, creating a whole new Act. The Care Act 2014 replaced many old acts that were in need of updating and/or replacement. For example, Health Services and Public Health Act 1968, National Assistance Act 1948, and many others. As you're aware now, the statutory guidance stipulates that safeguarding means protecting an adult's right to live in safety, free from abuse and neglect. To do this, it requires people and agencies working together to prevent and stop both the risks and experience of abuse or neglect, ensure that the adult's well-being is promoted, have regard for the adult's views, wishes, feelings and beliefs when deciding on any action. Strong multi-agency partnerships are formed by local authorities to ensure effective prevention of abuse to vulnerable adults and by supporting the development of constructive learning surroundings at various levels of access. Safeguarding principles. There are 6 key principles set out in the Care Act 2014 that reinforce all work taken to safeguard vulnerable adults. These are: Principle 1. Empowerment. Adults ask for what they want and receive support that is personal to them and have given their consent. Principle 2. Prevention. Signs are recognised and clear decisive actions are taken before harm occurs to the vulnerable adult. Principle 3. Proportionality. Professionals to work in the vulnerable adult's best interests and responses are proportionate to the presented risks. Principle 4. Protection. Professionals to provide help and support for those in the greatest need. Principle 5. Partnership. Professional services within the local community join together to share only the information that prevents, detects, and reports neglect and abuse. Principle 6. Accountability. Safeguarding of vulnerable adults should be delivered with transparency and accountability, therefore the adult fully understands the role of everyone in their life. You will revisit these 6 principles again later on in the responsibilities section, as they are closely linked to the sharing of information and protection plans. Let us now look closely at the Mental Capacity Act 2005. This act applies to everyone involved in the care, treatment and support of people aged 16 and over living in England and Wales who are unable to make some decisions for themselves. The MCA is designed to protect and restore power to those vulnerable people who lack capacity. Mental capacity is where a person is unable to make decisions through a lack of capacity to do so. This could be due to head, spinal injuries, disabilities or illness. It is stated in the Mental Capacity Act 2005 that a person is unable to make a decision for themselves if they are unable to do one or more of the following things: to understand the information relevant to the decision, retain the information given to them, Use or reflect on that information as part of that process of making the decision. Communicate the decision, whether by talking, using sign language, or any other means. It is of vital importance that a decision in the best interests of the vulnerable adult, made by a suitable adult under the Mental Capacity Act 2005, should always encourage the adult to participate in decisions, try to identify all the things that that adult would want to include in making that decision, their individual views, avoiding discrimination, and to assess if the adult might regain mental capacity. Dementia. According to the Alzheimer's Organization, dementia is not a specific disease. It's an overall term that describes a group of symptoms associated with a decline in memory or other thinking skills severe enough to reduce a person's ability to perform everyday activities. Dementia affects all people, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or age, and currently affects 850,000 people in the UK, with estimated numbers set to rise to 1 million by 2025. In April 2017, the World Health Organization studies show that the figures of the number of people living with dementia worldwide is currently estimated at 47 million and is projected to increase to 75 million by 2030. The symptoms of dementia can include difficulty in performing familiar tasks, loss of memory, confusion and misplacing things, changes in mood or behavior, poor judgment in making decisions. There are 7 stages of dementia. Stage 1, no decline. No memory problems or other symptoms are evident. Stage 2, very mild decline. Minor memory problems, though still do well on memory tests. Stage 3, mild decline. Having trouble organizing and planning, remembering names of new friends. Stage 4, moderate decline. Have difficulty with simple arithmetic, poor short-term memory. Stage 5, moderately severe decline. Difficulty dressing appropriately, significant confusion. Stage 6, severe decline. Confusion or inability to remember details of personal history. Stage 7, very severe decline. Lose ability to communicate and in final stages, swallow. If these symptoms occur, then the vulnerable adult is at an increased risk of abuse financially and other forms of abuse. Those affected by dementia will require someone to act in their best interests as time goes on and the vulnerable adult's condition declines through the stages of dementia.